Hi, and welcome to my channel. I'm happy that you're here. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. I hope that everything is going great in your life. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the past and how the past that we grew up with no longer exists. And I know you're aware of that. I don't know if you guys can hear the birds. I'm sitting out here on my back deck. We've had a little bit of rain. You probably can't see it. The sun is popping back out, but we did have some rain. And it's a beautiful evening. Beautiful evening. A little bit humid, but it's a nice night for sitting out on the porch. But what I wanted to talk about today is the fact that um, the childhood that we grew up with, that our parents grew up with, you know this, it's gone. It's totally gone. The minute that, we had the internet and iPhones and all that stuff, you know, games that kids play constantly sitting in front of the TV. Now, we can sit here and talk about nostalgia. I grew up on a farm. I grew up catching fish with my hands in the creek. That was my summer. I had a little pony. I rode my pony. I was outside constantly, all the time. Now, I know that that's not realistic for everyone. I understand that. And people maybe that lived in the city, they did different things. I talked to friends who lived in housing developments and stuff like that, and they would gather with the kids in the developments. I didn't have that so much living out in the rural areas. I had my sisters and maybe a friend or two that might come over. So mostly, I grew up barefoot, running around the farm, playing with animals, the dogs, the cats. Like I said, catching fish in the creek with my hands, and I had my sisters to play with. I had a pony. It was a good life. It was a really good life. But things have changed so much over the years with all the electronic gadgets and all the things that these kids have. I look at my granddaughter, she's 5, and she just has to have that tablet. And if she doesn't have the tablet, she has to have that phone. So the world that we grew up in is dead and gone. Even if you never gave your kid a tablet or a phone, it would still eventually get to that point. They would have all of that. And I'm not saying there's anything technically wrong with that in one respect, but in another respect, I think it's led to a lot of inactive children, some obesity. Of course, this is just my opinion, um, but I think it's led to a lot of bad things. Now, it has brought about good things as well, sure. Um, I had a conversation with my daughter the other day. She has 3 children, and we were talking about she had an incident in the Dollar General near her home, which scared her. She said that there was a man in the parking lot in a blacked out van with temporary tags. And when she got out to go in, she said, I didn't think a lot of it at the beginning, but she said, I got out and I went in the store with my little girl. She had the 5-year old with her. The other two are older. She had left them at home with their dad. And she said, he gets out and he follows me in. And she said, he followed me around the store without a cart. She said, when I first went in, I'm trying to get the cart out of the cart kiosk or cart, whatever. And he reached over and helped her pull the cart out. And she said, I just immediately didn't get a good feeling. And she said, maybe he was just trying to help. But then he proceeded to follow me around the store. She said he would go down aisles, like the feminine product aisle, with her. And she said at one point he did disappear, and when she came to the end of the aisle, he was standing there. She said, Mom, I was afraid. She said, these people that let their kids run around, what if, my daughter had run down there, went around the corner out of my sight. He grabbed her and went out the door with her. She said it would have been too late. I couldn't have, gotten to her. Now, you may say she's just being paranoid. I say she's being realistic. Um, Again, We talked about this, and I said, well, back in my day, you didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Back when I was a kid, you didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Back when my parents were kids. And she said to me, it may be worse now because there's more people. But she said, Mom, it was just as bad back then. You don't realize it. She said, you watch these crime shows with me. We watch them, not with each other. We don't live together, but we watch the same kind of thing, true crimes and different things. And she said, the stuff happened in the 60s and 70s and 80s. Bad stuff happened all the time. It's not different, it's the same. And I started thinking about it. And she pointed out, we have the internet again for bringing this stuff to light. We have all kinds of true crime shows on the internet, on YouTube, and things like that. So I started thinking about it, and I'm like, she's right. So, really, the world that we lived in before the internet, I guess is what I'm trying to say, was more sheltered. Was it any worse or any better? I can't say that to be true. Was it just better because we didn't know about it as much? Or was it really better? And I've given it a lot of thought. I don't know what your thoughts are. Um, like I said, I lived in a rural area. I was sheltered. We didn't go a lot of places. We didn't have a lot of money. We maybe went on vacation once a year, and that was usually down south to visit relatives. We stayed at their homes and visited with them. We didn't do big things, crazy things. We didn't have the money for it. So when I think about it, everywhere I went was kind of rural and protected. I didn't live in areas with lots of people. So now things are getting more populated and things are coming closer to what I call home for me. I don't know what your thoughts are, but when she pointed that out, I had to really take a step back and I had to think about it. Were they really better? Or did we just not know about it? And I think that's where the world that we lived in and we grew up in, us in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s, it was different in that we were more sheltered as far as we didn't hear about this stuff like we do now. Now it's all over the place all the time. You can go on the internet, you can find true crime, you can find anything you want out there. It's absolutely crazy, but it's true stuff. It's really happened or it is happening. So obviously, it happened back when we were growing up or when our parents were growing up. But I think in the difference, the world that we lived in back then was more sheltered and you didn't know about stuff as prominently as you do now. Um, I don't know what your thoughts are on this. Give me your thoughts. What do you think? Do you think it was actually really better back then? Or do you think that we just didn't know that it was the way it was? Did we just not know about all the crime that was going on? A little bunny just went across there. Sorry about that. Didn't get a shot of him, but it is raining. So, you know, I just contemplate these things as I watch my grandkids grow up, and I live in concern for them because children generally are trusting. Children generally don't think about their mortality or what could possibly happen to them. As a general rule, children don't think like that. But parents have to be watchful and protective all the time. Is it worse now than it was back then? Or is it just that we didn't know about it back then? What are your thoughts? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think. I'm going to go in because it's starting to rain worse, and I'm afraid, at least the wind's not blowing. So I don't think that I'll get wet. We had a really bad storm last night here. Just I'm off on a tangent here, but we had a bad storm last night, and I have a sewing studio in my basement. And normally my basement does not flood, never does. But last night we got an intense amount of rain, a lot of rain in a very short period of time. And because of that, we got like 2.5 inches in like an hour. It was nuts. And because of that, I got some water in my basement. And yeah, we had to spend the evening vacuuming that out, sucking that out of the basement. It was a fun time. Tonight, we're just getting a nice gentle rain, which we need. Our area is in a drought at this point, so we kind of need that this rain. So anyway, I hope everybody's well. Let me know your thoughts. Were we more sheltered? Was it just as bad? Is it worse now? What are your thoughts? Everybody have a great night. I'll see you in the next video.